Lamed Ches Amud Beis, 4 lines from the top. Continue on with the discussion about Yontiv and Shabbos when they come together, Yontiv before Shabbos or after Shabbos. Do we treat it like Shtei Kedushas or Kedusha Achas? Amar Rav said halacha kedal zakein halal. The halacha is like the following for zakenim. V'ali b'Rav Eliezer damar beis kedusha sein. And following the sheets of Rav Eliezer, who said that Shabbos and Yontiv are considered two separate kedushas. Therefore, you have to make a separate eruv for Shabbos and for Yontiv. Ve'elohein dal zakenim Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel, Rabbi Shmuel ben Rav Yochanan ben Broike, Rabbi Elazar, Rav Shimon, Rav Yesi, Rav Yehuda Stimto. So these are the Tanoim that they all hold. They go with that sheet. That they hold that halachas like these zakenim, and that they hold that Shabbos and Yontiv are considered two separate kedushas. V'kedam chad minayu Rav Elazar. And one says, another version is that you switch Rabbi Elazar with Rabbi Yosef Rabbi Yehuda Simto, and Rabbi Elazar is the one that holds that they're shtei kedushas. But we learned in the Brisa at the top of the Amud that they hold the opposite. They hold that you don't have to make a separate Eruv, so therefore they hold as Kedusha Achas. Where says Epuk that you have to reverse the opinions in the Brisa and say that they're the ones that hold that it's considered to be Shtei Kedushas, that you have to make a separate Eruv because they're considered two Kedushas. So we have to reverse the opinions. Well, if you're going to reverse the opinions, then that comes out, then that's what Rebbe holds. That he said in the Brisa that they have to make a separate Eruv because they hold the Shtei Kedushas. So then how are they differing from Rebbe if you say that Epoch reverse their opinions? Gemara says, Eima v'chein Omar Rav Shimon ben Gamliel. The way you should read the Brisa is v'chein, that they agree with it. It's not a machlokes. They also say the same. They have the same sheet. Well, if that's the case, and then you're saying v'chein, and they go with the sheet of Rebbe, v'lichshanami Rebbe, why isn't Rebbe also included in the list, and that we consider that the 2 days of Shabbos and Yontiv are considered Shtei Kedushas? More answers, Rebbe was quoted in the Brisa, but it's not his personal opinion. He was quoting it. This is the opinion of others. That's Rabbi Elazar's opinion, but that's not his opinion. So therefore, he's not listed amongst the Tanoim that hold that way. More, if that's the case, let us say that Rishim Gamliel, Rishmal, that also let us say the same thing, that they are saying that this is their quoting of Rabbi Elazar, but they don't hold that way. Gemara says, Rav had a Kabbalah, he had a tradition that this was their shita, that they held that way. That Rebbe did not hold that way, but they did hold that way. Kinach nashid Rav Huna, when Rav Huna was nifter, ayal Rav Chisda lemirme derav derav. Rav Chisda went in to the base medrash and asked to steer a contradiction between two members of Rav. Mi amar Rav halach gedal zakein. Did Rav say that halach is like dal zakein? Vali b'Rav Eliezer the amar shtei kedusha saying, according to Rav Eliezer, that says that Shabbos and Yontiv are two separate kedushas. We consider them two separate days, and therefore you make a separate Eruv for Shabbos and Yontiv. They're next to each other. Ayvai itmar Shabbos v'Yontiv, and Shabbos and Yontiv, they come on consecutive days. Rav Amar nolda b'zeh, asura b'zeh. If an egg is born on one day, it's also for the second day. Now, if an egg is born on Erev Shabbos on a regular Friday, Yom Chol, it's mutter for Shabbos for the next day. But if it's born on Shabbos, it's considered noilad. It's considered muksa. It's noilad. It wasn't here in the world prior to this leda, to the egg being born, and therefore it's considered to be noilad, something that was not in existence prior. It came into existence on Shabbos, so that's muksa. Now, if Shabbos and Yontiv are considered two separate days, why should we say noilad bazeh is also bazeh? Why should we say that it was noilad on one day if the egg was laid on one day, that it should be also for the next day. If it's considered one day, we understand. Just when the egg was laid on Shabbos, the entire Shabbos, it becomes also. If Shabbos and Yom Tov is one day, then it's just like if it was laid on part of the day, then the entire day is also. So Yom Tov also is also. But if they're considered two separate days, why should we say Noel B'zeh, also B'zeh? So doesn't that show you that he holds it's Kedusha Achas, that it's one day? Omar Rabba says, no. Over there, the reason why it's also, it's not because it's considered one day. It's considered two separate days. But Hasa Mishum Hachana. There, the Isser is Hachana. That when the egg is laid, that's considered to be that it's doing a Hachana. It's preparing itself. That the egg was being prepared by being laid, it's being prepared. Now, there's a special din, as we'll see momentarily, there's a special din that what is mutter on Shabbos, that what you can use on Shabbos, or what you can use on Yom Tov, has to be something where the preparation was done from before Shabbos and before Yom Tov. It has to be that a Yom Chol, that a weekday, prepares for Shabbos and Yom Tov. But Shabbos cannot prepare for Yom Tov, and Yom Tov cannot prepare for Shabbos. So therefore, the reason why it's Noilan B'zeh or B'zeh is not because it's one day, but it is because if Yom Tov is on Friday, then Yom Tov is preparing for Shabbos. The laying of the egg is preparing that egg, and Yom Tov cannot prepare for Shabbos. If Yom Tov is on Sunday, then Shabbos is preparing for Yom Tov. The Sanya, where do we see this din v'achona? Because the Torah says, "Vaya b'yom meshishi v'echinu," on the sixth day. On Friday, which, as Taisus explains in Bayat, with its sixth day is normally a Yom Chol. So it says, they gather them on. And on Friday, they prepare what they're going to use for Shabbos. So we learn out, Friday, a regular Friday, which is Yom Chol, that prepares for Shabbos. The preparation for Shabbos is on Shishi. V'chol meichin liyontiv. And Yom Tov is also called a Shabbos, so the whole Friday prepares for Shabbos, Friday prepares for Yom Tov. But ve'en Yom Tov mechin l'Shabbos, ve'en Shabbos mechin l'Yom Tov. But Shabbos can't prepare for Yom Tov, and Yom Tov can't prepare for Shabbos, so that's why it's also. Amar Leah Abai says, El Me'at, if that's the case. So we learned in the Mishnah says, what should he do for he has the Yom Tov and Shabbos are smoking together? What do? He puts the Erev down on Thursday on Erev Yom Tov. He takes it to the place where he wants to be kind of shis. He waits there until it's dark, then he brings it back, and he takes it the next day, and he places it down where the Erev should be for Shabbos. So it says, what does he do? He takes the Erev on the first day, he waits till it's dark, then he takes it a ball and he goes home. On the second day, he goes to the place of the Erev, to the same place, and he waits till it gets dark, and then he can eat the. Now, how come mechin miyom tov l'Shabbos? Well, if he's taking it on Friday, he's taking it on Yom Tov, the Erev Shabbos, so isn't Yom Tov then, isn't he preparing for Shabbos on Yom Tov? Isn't it Yom Tov being preparing for Shabbos? Amar le Rabbi says, no, misarvat seif hayem kain Erev. It's not preparing, because when the Erev takes effect, when that preparation happens, that hachana, when is he kind of the Erev? Misarvat seif hayem kain. It's not the end of the day on Friday that he's kind. It's not the end of Erev Shabbos that is kind. It's chil hayem kain Erev. The Erev takes effect on the beginning of Shabbos. The Shabbos, mechina l'asma, so Shabbos is preparing for himself. It's not that Yom Tov is preparing for Shabbos. The Erev takes effect at the beginning of Shabbos. So Shabbos is mechina l'asma. Frank the Gemara el me'ata. Well, if that's the case, if you're telling me, you're saying that the Erev takes effect at the beginning of Shabbos, not at the end of Friday. El me'ata yarvu belagin. Why can't you be ma'arv with a bottle of wine? We learned previously that there's a bottle of wine if it's mice, where trumas meiser has not been separated, so it's tevel. Tevel cannot be eaten by anybody. And even if he declares that he says that the Trumas Meiser should be chal after dark, Mishatel so it's on Shabbos, it's still not a valid Erev, because on Erev Shabbos, it's still Tevel. It's not roy lachila. Now, if you're saying that the Erev takes effect only at the beginning of Shabbos, so what's the problem? At the very onset of Shabbos, at the beginning of Shabbos, then the Trumas Meiser is chal. It's not tevel anymore. So why can't you be ma'arv with that? Our answer is be'in suda haruya mi ba'id yaim v'leka. Even though the Erev takes effect, it only takes effect at the beginning of Shabbos, but nevertheless, in order to be a valid Erev, it has to be an edible suda that's roy, it has to be ba'id yaim. So that's what we have to have. We have to have that requirement, and over there, and it doesn't qualify for that. But the actual Erev takes effect on the onset of Shabbos, in the beginning of the Yom. Frag the Gemara, Eloha, this not. We learned in the Mishnah, Rabbi Lezer Aimer, Yontav Asamach L'Shabbos, Ben Melfenah, Ben Melacharea, Ma'arav Adam Shnei Eruvin, that if a person is Yontav, that either falls out on Friday or on Sunday, a person can make two different Eruvin. He can make an Erev for one day in one direction, and he can make an Erev for the other day in the other direction. So we're assuming at this point what that means is that if he's in his city, then he can make an Erev that is 2,000 amas away from the city in one direction, which would allow him to go from his city to the Erev, because the Erev has 2,000 amas in each direction, so that would allow him, for instance, if this is to the north, it would allow him to go to this direction 2,000 amas, so he can go to the Erev, and from the Erev he can go further another 2,000 amas in that direction. And then the second day, he puts the Erev to the other side, to the south, which would allow him, and it's 2,000 amas away, which would allow him to go to the Erev, because it's within 2,000 amas from where he is in the city, and 2,000 amas further. However, he would not be able to go from one location to the other location. So he would not be able to go on, let's say Yom Tov is on Friday. On Friday, he would not be able to go to the Erev that's to the south, because that Erev is now more than 2,000 amas away, more than 2,000 amas to the south of where his Erev is on Friday. So the assumption is that he can make an Erev if he wants to go, the maximum he wants to travel on Friday to the north, let's say, the maximum he wants to travel on Shabbos to the south, that he puts the Erev 2,000 amas away from the city to the north on Friday, 2,000 amas away from the city on to the south on the city. Actually, it's 2,000 amas less the Dalet amas that we consider the city. We consider the city where he's at to be an area of Dalet amas, 4 amas, so it's Alpaim Amma in each direction less the 4 amas. But that would mean, though, that he could not go on Friday, he could not go to the Erev that was the Shabbos Erev, because it's more than 2,000 amas away. So, Frek the Gemara, if you're telling me that you need a Suda that's Ru'uyami Ba'ijayim, V'habin, Suda Ru'uyami Ba'ijayim, V'leka, you don't have a Suda that's Ru'uyami Ba'ijayim, because on Friday, the Shabbos Erev is not accessible to him. It's not like, say, you can't travel that far in that direction. So doesn't that show you that you do not need a Suda Ru'uyami Ba'ijayim? The Gemara says no. Miyasar with the monach le b'seif alpayim amalekan v'seif alpayim lekan le. The monach le b'seif elf amalekan v'seif el amalekan. Your assumption is incorrect. We're not talking in the case where the Erev on Friday is 2,000 amas away. It's only 1,000. And the Erev for Shabbos is also 1,000 amas from the city in the other direction. So therefore, what it means is that on Friday he can go 1,000 amas to the Erev. He can go to the Erev, and that's the 1,000 amas from the city, and another 2,000 amas to the north, a total of 3,000 amas in the north direction. On Shabbos, he can go 3,000 amas to the south. But it also means that the Erev, that's the Shabbos Erev, is accessible to him on Friday, because it's only 2,000 amas away from where he is. It's 1,000 amas to the city, and another 1,000 amas to the other direction. So it is accessible to him. Frak the Gemara Alahad Amar of Yehuda, he said, Erev Baragla Liyam Rishon. Well, we learned that If he's ma'arav b'raglav by his presence, not by putting down bread, by being in the location, by physically being in the location. So if he's erev b'raglav b'yayim rishon, ma'arav b'raglav b'yayim sheni. So he similarly, for the second day, he has to go back, and if he wants an erev to be for the second day, he has to be physically go back to that same location and be present in that location for the erev of the second day to be chal. So therefore, if he's erev b'raglav b'yam rishon, mar b'raglav b'yam sheni, erev b'pas b'yam rishon, if the erev he made for the first day is with bread, then mar b'pas b'yam sheni. That he, therefore, the pas has to be there for the second day, and he makes the erev with the bread for the second day. Now, we're assuming over here that if he's ma'arav b'raglav on the first day, but the second day when he goes back, he will have to make another declaration. Because we're assuming that even though when he puts the bread down for the first day, if he takes the bread and brings it back the second day, he doesn't have to make another declaration. But that's because he made the declaration for the first day. And the bread, by its nature, it's an inanimate object, so it's static, it's stationary. Now, even if he happens to move it, but it's by nature, it's stationary. Therefore, when he brings it back, he's just reinstating that declaration, that erev that he made before. So then the erev now could be chal for the second day. But we're assuming in the kasha that a person, since he's not stationary, if he's ma'arav b'raglav on the first day, even though he made a declaration, he would have to make another declaration for the second day, because it's considered to be a new erev, not a reinstating of the old. People move around, they're not stationary, so it would be considered to be a new erev, not reinstating, and have to make the declaration. Well, if that's the case, how can he do that? Now, if we're saying that there's an Isra of Hachona, Hakam Mechin Mi Yontiv L'Shabbos, Yontiv must is, in this case, he makes a declaration, he's preparing from Yontiv to Shabbos. And you have the Isra of Hachona, which incidentally, as a side note, is a machlekes and rishonim. Is this a deraisa or derabanan? The sheet of Taisus and the Russians that it is a deraisa. The Ram holds a derabanan, but al kol panim you have the Isra of Hachona. Omerle Rabbis answers to Abai. He says, "Mi sarvados alamar midi." No, he says even when he makes an erev b'raglav, he does not have to make a declaration. Does on the shasik v'yosef, he doesn't make a declaration. So therefore, it's not called a hachana because the erev is made on its own. It becomes automatic just by its presence being there. It automatically, the erev is chal, so therefore it's not considered like he's meichen, because Shabbos is meichen la'atzmai. So Kiman, well, this that you're saying you don't need a declaration, who is this going according to? L'cher is going to Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri. L'cher is going according to Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri, and not according to the Chachamim. Damar cheftzei hefker kind of shvisa. Now he holds that something which is hefker also has an erev. That heftzei hefker is kind of shvisa. There's a machlekes. They have a machlekes where a person is sleeping, and if he's sleeping, is he kind of shvisa? Is he kind of the erev? Does he have 2,000 amas if he was sleeping on the onset of Shabbos? So Rabbi ben Nuri says, even though he was sleeping, he didn't make a declaration, and he wasn't even aware that Shabbos is coming. Nevertheless, he automatically is kind of shvisa. Chum say no, he's not, and he only has dalet amas from the place he was sleeping. Similarly, in hefker, an item which is ownerless, Rav Yochanan ben Nuri says, an ownerless item, you don't need a declaration, so it automatically the erev is chal, you're kind of the shvisa. Whereas the Chum say it's not kind of shvisa. So over here, l'chera, this would be going not according to the Chum, it would only be going to Rav Yochanan ben Nuri, because what are we saying? We're saying that the person is ma'ar v'raglav, he does not have to make a declaration. Now, l'chera, according to the Rabbanan, you do have to make a declaration. The Gemara says no. Afil l'tzeim Rabbanan, it can even be going against the Rabbanan. Akan loy pligi Rabbanan l'der Yochanan ben Nuri, they only argue b'yashin when a person is sleeping. D'lei matzi amar, because he's not capable of making a declaration. There they say it's ma'akev and the erev is not valid. Aval b'neir the iboy l'meimar matzi amar, but in our case where he's awake, he's walking to that location, that he's capable of making the declaration, there they would hold that In such a case, that even if he didn't, we treat it, the Erev does come automatically because he's a person that could make a declaration, and therefore we say he has that capability, the Erev would be Chal. It's only if he is not capable of doing it, that's where they say you need to do it. So therefore, we're saying over here, there is no Hachana, and it is considered a Suda Rumi B'Oijim, and therefore, and that's why the Erev is Chal. But according to Rambam, you have to have a Suda that's Rumi B'Oijim, and there's the Isra of Achana from one day to the other, and he holds that the Tchilas Yom is kind of Erev.